Welcome to the best time of the year, freaks. Now, you may be asking yourself, why is Abigail on the floor in the corner of her bedroom in a Trisha Paytas style shot setup, sitting really weirdly? First of all, great question, thank you for asking. As I'm sure we've all realized, it is October. This is the most wonderful time of the year. I don't care what anyone says. If you have interacted with my channel at all, I'm sure you have noticed that I am an absolute maniac for horror movies. And really anything spooky related. I love reading spooky content, experiencing it, watching it, blah, 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 blah. So I'm ready and raring to go. Though this is not the usual video you get from me, what today is gonna be is a roundup of my almost daily horror movie watches, and we're gonna be doing a fun little Halloween do-it-at-home craft. So my plan during October every year is always to watch a horror movie a day for the whole month. It usually ends up getting kind of a halt thrown in it for some reason or other, and that's okay. But what we're gonna talk about is a little horror movie roundup. These are gonna be all the horror movies I've watched every day or during the month of October so far, and maybe a little bit before if there's some notable new releases. And we're gonna talk about what's worth watching, maybe some sleeper hits, what I really like, what I really dislike, all of the above. And all while we also make a very spooky, very weird, very uncomfortable craft for, I don't know, a Halloween party for your home. I'm just gonna let this one sit in my room. So when Talk to Me, the A24 horror film, came out, I was obsessed. I think that's one of the most interesting horror movies I've seen as of late. Some really great writing, cool character development, really interesting spooky side with like the relic that they have that causes all the chaos in the movie. That was really creative, really cool, and it really stuck with me. It occurred to me one day that a lot of sweet little couples and families have this darling little craft they get to make where they hold their hands like this or this and they put them into a little plaster cast and they make a little mold of their hands and they get to display it over their houses. Well, I thought, why can't I take that same mold and use it for evil? So what I'm gonna do is make the hand from Talk to Me, and I'm gonna display it proudly and full of glory. This will probably take a few days to make because it's gonna have to set and I'm gonna have to decorate it. Decorate it. Can you imagine I put bows on it? Gonna have to draw on it, you know, color it just right to make sure it has like a kind of worn look to it. But I thought this would be a fun thing to do together while we talk about the horror movies I've been watching recently. Stick with me, this is going to be a bumpy ride. I don't claim to be a great DIYer. In fact, it's probably something I'm even less skilled at than the average person, but I think it'll be fun to kind of crash and burn together. First order of business is to change these pants because they're far too nice and cute to destroy this early into owning them. Also, look at these cute Halloween socks. They're little cats! And no, you don't get my feet for free. You guys are sickos. But if you do want to see them, DM me. For the right price, anything can happen. All right, we're all changed and ready to go. I just got this hand casting kit off of Amazon. I don't know how this is gonna turn out. It may totally crumble literally and figuratively, but hey, if it works out, here's a great plan on how to make your weirdo little crafts at home. So it seems that we're going to need an electric whisk. I don't know if I want to use that for this. A mixing bowl, baby oil, timer, measuring cup, and cool water. Pretty much things I can all provide. Now I had pre-read the ingredient list, I'm not cooking, and realized I don't have baby oil. I'm not a baby, but my roommate did have some body oil, so we're just gonna use that and hope for the best. I fear I'm gonna destroy my room making this. I promise we will talk about these movies soon. We just gotta get this game started. Okay, I'm gonna immediately break the rules and not actually use an electric mixer to mix this together, just because I feel like I don't need it. It just says 5 to 10 seconds mixing with it, and I feel like if I just mix it really vigorously, it'll be fine. Alexa, how many cups is 2.5 liters?
2.5 liters is about 10.6 cups.
Thank you. I'll be right back. All right, this bucket is now full of water. I put some ice in it too, just to make sure it's cold enough. I don't have like a fancy fridge water pitcher. I don't know how the other half lives, but I do need a 90-second timer, and I need to make sure I'm ready to stick my little fingies into this thing. I'm going to Google the hand just to make sure I'm ready and raring to go. There is no margin for error here. It's actually quite frightening. So there's two ways we could go here. One is the obvious correct answer. On the poster, the hand actually looks like this. I don't like that. In the movie, it looks like this. I know you can't see the thumb, but it's just kind of like resting there. So I think what I need to do is kind of make my hand go on like a almost 90-degree angle and just kind of hold like this, as if it's like a handshake. And I'm testing by doing this. So I just need to make sure to put it in like this. Is it gonna be hard? Yeah, it's worth it. We're gonna have to start slow and really whisk vigorously. That's okay. I need a timer.
Ends.
When I mix this in, it's supposed to be turning purple. Feels like a lot of water. Oh, I'm so frightened. Please go well, please go well. I don't want to buy another one. Start the timer. I'm gonna whisk vigorously. Do you hear that sound? I know you can't really see this, but I'll show you. Oh my god. Okay. Put the rest in, No mistakes, no mistakes. You gotta mix and mix and mix. This is turning slimy purple. It looks like the Minions in Despicable Me 2. The one where they get that juice and they go crazy. Why is it so wet? No, it's not mixing right. It's got like clumps. Okay, there's the timer. Oh my god, I'm making such a mess. This is so disgusting. I gotta tap it to get the air bubbles out. I'm gonna let you see. I gotta immediately insert my hand. This looks right. Oh, this is not gonna be good. Oh, I forgot to put the baby oil on.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
We're gonna keep going anyways. All right, well, it says I need to hold my hand firmly for 3 to 5 minutes. I'm gonna do 5 to err on the side of caution. Okay, well, it's supposed to turn blue as it cools, or hardens, I don't know. But let's talk movies while I stand in this very uncomfortable position. So I've seen a couple movies this month already, and a few right before that were big horror releases. First off, let's talk The Front Room. This is a little bit of a crossover for the A24 series as well. So this movie stars Brandy, and she is a young wife. She's also a teacher at the local college, and she is married to a white man whose stepmother decides that she's gonna come live with them after her husband dies, right? He doesn't like his mother. She was never nice to him. In fact, she was terrible, ? So he's super wary about it, but Brandy's like, yeah, come on in. Long story short, they're trying really hard to get pregnant. It's not really working. They seem to have had a kid before, but lost the child to a terrible tragedy. This old woman, who is his stepmother, comes into the house. Her name is Solange, and she is a terror. She immediately wants to control everything in the house, and she gets like upset when she doesn't get to like say her racist crap and just like let it slide by. She wants to be like top dog in the house, but it's like super weird and uncomfortable because it's not her home. Anyways, she like kind of extorts them and like is super manipulative. She's weirdly protective of the baby that Brandy has later. To be honest, she's just a big old racist weirdo, and she really brings the vibe of the house down. Now, I actually was excited when I saw the trailers for this movie at first. It was advertised as a horror movie and like kind of like a clash of family between Brandy and Solange. I'm using half character, half actor names, it's fine. I kind of went into this movie expecting it to be sort of like The Visit, if you remember that Shyamalan movie that came out a few years ago, which was actually pretty decent. It wasn't my favorite, but it definitely was not Shyamalan's worst. No way that was 5 minutes, and no way this is said. I think my lack of following the rules has kind of been my downfall today. I think all the solution is just at the bottom of the bucket, and it's just water up top now. Well, if I fail, you'll get to watch me fail humorously. So the movie actually turned out to be like a lot of gross out factor. It's a lot of like pee-pee poo-poo stuff, which is kind of weird. The actors all did a great job with this sort of idea of like the push and pull of like family dynamics. It made it an interesting concept, but in the end, the actress who played Solange was so good, but she was so insufferable because she did such a good job that like I almost just couldn't handle it. It ended up just not being as inspired of a take as I hoped it would be, and it wasn't my favorite. Who's setting off fireworks right now? Next up was the highly anticipated Alien Romulus. Now I know that this one created a lot of controversy. People really hated it, some people really liked it, and some people had some issues with with some of the content, just know I'm about to spoil Alien Romulus. We start on a mining planet where Kaylee Spanie's character is trying desperately to get out of this place that they call home. I say they because she has someone she calls her brother. His name is Andy. He's actually a robot, but they have like a really beautiful connection and they stick together. Unfortunately, she's not going to be allowed off the mining planet, so she goes to her friends who have hatched up this idea to hop right over to this ship that's in orbit around the planet they're on. It's close enough that they can just hop over on a little ship, and it has the resources that they're going to need to get to the closest planet that they want to get to. Little do they know that the ship they get on is actually the Nostromo. Womp womp. Bummer, but leads to good content for us. Obviously, since they're getting on the Nostromo, it is infested with xenomorphs, and it's just waiting to breed on these kids. Of course, not only the xenomorphs are waiting for them, but also Rook was left behind. If you remember watching the first Alien movie, this takes place canonically after the first. 15 years, I think. I thought it was really cool to see an old character come back to life that we haven't seen since the first Alien movie. It was like such an exciting, cool moment for me. However, I did learn later on that there was some controversy regarding the fact that perhaps Ian Holm didn't want to be involved in franchises anymore. Honestly, respect after doing Lord of the Rings and Alien. That's, I mean, real. People were kind of frustrated that they used his likeness and made what was kind of like what some people thought was the only kind of poor visual of the movie, using CGI to like reanimate his face. I can understand why there's frustration there. Personally, if I don't know all the circumstances around that moment, I thought it was really cool. I was excited to see an old character that I really loved again, and I wanted to jump up and scream in the theater. I was lucky enough to see Alien Romulus in the Lincoln Square IMAX theater in New York City, which is the largest IMAX in the country. It's an amazing theater. I go there all the time. It's just so cool to experience any movie in that space because it's not only such a beautiful viewing experience, but also the crowds that go to movies there are so cool. You get a whole sort of community experience with the movie that's really awesome. If you're in the New York area or you find yourself there, I would really urge you, if you're a movie person, to go see something in IMAX at that theater because it's just the coolest experience. As I'm sure you can guess, everything kind of devolves into chaos as these kids encounter all the xenomorphs, the facehuggers, and it is utilized in sort of some of the most grotesque ways I think we've seen in a long time in an Alien movie. I'm not going to spoil all the specifics for you, but I thought a lot of the individual moments that were created and curated in the movie, along with that original classic sort of setting of the Nostromo, I thought it was a spectacular time. I absolutely adored watching this movie. I had such a great time experiencing those like original horrors again and getting to watch like such a kick group of actors just like destroy this movie. It was in such a cool way. I really loved what Feda did with the whole movie. I think pulling inspiration from Alien Isolation, the video game, is such a cool idea, and it totally showed. To me, one of my favorite things about the movie was that you can see the love and appreciation of the originals while they brought in some beautiful new creative twists that I really liked. I know most people didn't feel that way about this one, but I've been like feeling kind of the opposite of critical reactions to movies these days. Personally, as an Alien fan, I loved it, and it reminded me that I still really need to play Alien Isolation, which I'm hoping to make a video of soon because I found out you can play Alien Isolation on the Switch now. Let's move on to another movie. This is firming up. I'm so scared. I don't know if this is gonna work or not. I also recently saw during their releases Maxxxine and Longlegs. Another two that were polarizing and how people received them. It seems like everything's kind of polarizing lately.
It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
Maybe it's just me being in a movie theater, because I know this to be true about myself. Being in a movie theater can make me enjoy a film even if I don't think it's super amazing on its own. I'm super susceptible to having a really enjoyable movie experience just because the atmosphere is good in a movie theater, so I know that about myself. And often, like, I'll go back and kind of change my Letterboxd ratings when I'm watching a movie for the second time, like outside of the theater, at home, because I get a little bit of a different view on it. That being said, Longlegs was one of my favorite movie theater experiences in recent memory. I went, I think, on opening night in a packed theater with a friend and had the time of my life. Let me be clear, I'm also a huge Nicolas Cage fan, so the whole thing was kind of exciting and working for me. My major takeaway from Longlegs, and this is exactly what I told my friend right after seeing the movie, somehow they visually achieve the closest visual to my nightmares that I've ever seen. I don't know how to explain this, but Longlegs feels how my nightmares feel when I'm in them. Something about the sort of oppressive and claustrophobic nature of the movie, and sometimes even that boxy aspect ratio, made me feel stuck in it. And that first viewing was petrifying for me. I can't remember the last time I had been so scared in a movie theater. I felt stuck to my seat. I was terrified watching the whole thing. It's funny because I shortly after took another friend to go see it because I really wanted them to see the movie, and I had a totally different experience. The second round I watched it, I found it so funny. I found it like comedic brilliance the second time I watched it. And that's kind of the fun thing about the movie. Longlegs, both as a character and as a movie, has these brilliant moments of levity, so much in part to Nicolas Cage's bizarre performance that I love so much. Micah Monroe is such an oddball, quirky detective working for the FBI, and she's so lovable in a weird way. It's been a minute since I've seen a movie unravel in such a like strange and unexpected way, because you think you're watching a crime story, then you think you're watching a supernatural story, and it goes back and forth until you realize it's kind of both. I remember sitting in the theater thinking, this feels sort of reminiscent of Silence of the Lambs. I realized later when I was reading some Letterboxd reviews that other people felt the same way. I think it's something about having the kind of like quirky female lead FBI agent, and then that set against the like very like gritty, uncomfortable serial killer tone of the rest of the movie, which either way, I loved. I'm trying to encourage everyone in my life to see Longlegs. I think it was, I'd probably say, my favorite movie of the year so far. I'm not looking at a list of everything I've seen this year, but so far I really did love Longlegs. Maxxxine, I felt the same way about. I know everyone kind of felt that it was probably the weakest of the trio of X, Pearl, and Maxxxine, but I just had a fun, goofy time watching sort of like an 80s montage horror movie. It went both where I was expecting and a little bit not. When the trailer came out, I was really expecting that Maxxxine was the one going around killing LA residents. So it was a little different than what I expected, but I liked that about it. It kind of like fired me up in a fun way. I really enjoy 80s horror, so kind of getting into that aesthetic was just fun for me. I'm not here to say it was perfect or even the best of the trio. I think we all know Pearl is an amazing movie and obviously the best of the trio of the Ty West films. But as a whole fleshed out trio, I really loved it. I would say Maxxxine was probably my second favorite. I liked a lot about X, but I felt like some of it was a little gratuitous, which is also kind of the point of the horror genre and the sort of exploitative nature of what that movie is. So I get why it was the way it was, but I think I found Maxxxine to be a little bit in the middle more. I don't know, I'd have to watch it again because that's another one that it could just kind of be the movie theater experience influencing me. Next up, I just saw The Substance in theaters a few days ago. I'm ready for everybody to be really mad at me. This is an interesting take for me because I really love body horror. So I was expecting to adore The Substance. It was getting so much hype. Everyone was saying it was so incredible. It had hit the festival circuit, and a lot of people, I was hearing that it was very profound and the meaning was really moving and people were loving it. So I was surprised to find that I felt that The Substance was a pretty surface level movie. Interestingly enough, for a movie that's kind of about shallow expectations of women in Hollywood, I felt the movie itself was kind of shallow. It's possible that I just kind of like missed the meaning there, but I felt like it was really lacking nuance. The idea that body expectations for women in Hollywood are so unrealistic is not a new concept. This is something we've known since the beginning of Hollywood. That's not to say it's not something that still doesn't need to be addressed or talked about, but it is something we're familiar with. I found the concept of The Substance fun, of taking this medical procedure and sort of by, osmosis, I guess, creating the younger, better version of yourself. It was interesting to see what it would do, and it was gross and disgusting, and I did like that element. I will say, one of my best friends in the world is terrified of needles, and I almost took her to see this movie. Thank God I didn't, because she would have been freaking out. This movie is constant needles. If you don't like them, don't go. I mean, little ones, big ones, all of it. As you may suspect, there becomes a sort of major issue with the divide between our character and the younger, prettier, better version of our character. They're at odds. Only one can exist for 7 days at a time, and then they have to switch. So what you're getting is a week with Demi Moore and a week with Margaret Qualley. The setup causes innate problems, and I like that. I think what bugged me about this movie is that for something that is intending to take on such, I don't want to say serious, but like sensitive subject matter about expectations of women, it felt kind of exploitative of those women to me. I'm not trying to say that Demi Moore or Margaret Qualley were forced to do anything that they were not comfortable with, but, and this is what I said on my letterboxd, I kind of think like by the time you reach Margaret Qualley butt shot number 87, it's like, aren't we kind of falling into a trap of our own design? Like, I feel like even if you're trying to be self-referential and you're saying, oh yes, but we're calling out this ridiculous kind of standard of the industry where they always put the camera on our young female lead's butt. It's like, sure, I can see that, but it was like half the movie. We were just resting on her butt. And it felt just weird to keep watching that because it didn't feel like after a while you could keep calling it criticism of something in the industry. You're just doing the thing by putting the camera on her. I don't know. I felt weird about it. It felt a little surface level to me. I could totally be missing the idea, and maybe that is the point. Maybe the idea that it's so surface level is to start this conversation of look how surface level this industry is. Maybe that's the point. It just didn't quite click for me, at least on the day I saw it. I could totally revisit it and feel differently in the future. I'm not going to talk about Joker because I think that's not really horror and that's a whole separate conversation. Another one that I have an unpopular opinion about, but we can talk about that in another video. The last movie I want to talk about is a film called His House. I watched this movie on Netflix. It was a BBC film that came out in 2020, I think. So this movie follows a couple from Sudan. The couple is fleeing Sudan as there's a lot of conflict going on, and they're going through the refugee program in London, trying to find safety and housing and basically a new life where they can flourish. So since they're in the refugee program, I don't know if that's a thing, refugee program, but it's the best way I can say it. They are given housing and a little bit of money each week to survive, and they're told you can't move anywhere else, you can't get a job to supplement your income, you can't do any of these things. So they're basically stuck in this house. They can walk around the community, but there's not much they can do. Imagine the horror when they get to this house and realize that something has either come with them or something evil is infested in this house. They are literally in an impossible situation, a rock and a hard place where they can't leave the home. They have to suffer through this bizarre experience they're having. I decided this year I wanted to watch more international horror, and so I kind of, this was my first foray into that. Once I started watching, I realized this maybe can't really be considered really international horror in the way I meant it, because it was produced by the BBC, but it's a good first step. The acting is phenomenal. You even have Matt Smith in a small character, so it's kind of a big name cast. The main female actress, God bless her, I forget her name, I'm so annoyed at myself, is incredible. And the lead actor is fantastic as well. Throughout, incredible performances. It shows sort of an interesting different side to a paranormal film. I'm interested in different cultures' takes on evil and spirituality and paranormal happenings, and this is definitely a cool look at what that would look like in Sudan. It turns out to be like a really perfect blend of horror and drama in a way that's really beautifully done. There's a really interesting and cool reveal towards the end, and I loved how the plot unfurled. It was not only beautifully crafted in its writing and acting, it's visually really stunning too. So my last little recommendation of the day is check out His House on Netflix if you're in the US. If you're not in the US, not sure where it can be found, but check it out. It's a cool watch. Okay, my hand's been sitting in here for a long time now. I gave it extra time because I think it needed it to set. I'm really terrified this isn't gonna work. I think it left it a little clumpy because I didn't mix it well enough. Let me see if I can show you without removing my hand too much. I don't know if you can tell, but there's little bubbles and clumps of the stuff in there. So I'm gonna start wiggling my hand. I think that's what it says to do to get this out. Wiggle your wrist. Okay, allowing air into the mold. Ew. I love it. Just fart sounds. Oh my God, I think it maybe worked. This is comical. Oh, it's out. And okay, well this looks a little foul, but you can't tell, but that's where my hand was. I'm pretty excited to see if it works. Well, that's step one of this craft. I will check in later in the week and I'll show you what we've been working on. I definitely want to do other little DIYs during these roundup videos. If you have any suggestions of crafts you'd like to see, send them my way, please. I would love to do them. But I'll keep you updated on how this goes and on any movies I keep on watching. Drop any recommendations you have in the comments below. I have a whole list of movies that I haven't seen. I'm trying to watch all new things this Halloween for the most part. Hey, I'm always open to new movies that I haven't seen yet. If you're interested in that list and what I'm watching, let me know and I'll share more about it. Also, if you want to chat these movies or anything movie related, head on over to my Discord. It is an open forum where we can all talk and have a community where we chat about movies. So I'd love to have you there and do a little bit of chatting. Anyways, I appreciate you coming along for this silly little ride. Throw a subscribe and a like my way if you enjoyed the video. I'm gonna go wash my hands.